Hello, I'm Jillian Vanier, and here with me today I have Tech Coordinator Mr. Vincent Vanier, who also so happens to be my father. Thank you for coming and visiting us today.
Well, thanks for having me up here, Jillian.
Not a problem, our pleasure. First off, the first question that we will be asking today is pertaining to laptops versus desktops. What it is what changes do you expect to see in the next decade?
Well, laptops and desktops basically do many of the same functions, but the difference with the laptops is they're far more portable, they're lighter, they're easier to do quick work with, and you can do them in a variety of different places. With desktops, you're pretty much tied to a specific location, but what's good about them is that there's far more storage, far more speed. They can do things like gaming a little bit better, but high-end video processing would be a good example. I wouldn't want to edit everything in a great big project on a small laptop. It'd be much easier to do it on a desktop. If I was a student going to college, I might have to think, gee, do I have the space in the dorm room for a big computer unit, or do I want to start picking up the laptop for the portability? There's a whole bunch of things that people have to weigh there. So it depends on each individual and what they're looking for.
So as far as the market goes, do you think it will stay pretty balanced between laptops, desktops, and even tablets between the three?
Moving forward, I think there's been a big push for people to pick up tablets recently, but I don't know that it's going to get any more than that, because these cell phones are getting so large that some of these are almost the size of the small tablets. So I think college students, for example, are going to tend to pick up laptops to go to school with. People at home are generally doing a variety of things, and you pretty much need to match what your needs are to what's out there for the technology.
Do you have any preferences between the two, laptops or desktops?
Well, a good example would be if I had to write a research paper, I wouldn't want to be using my cell phone to do it. If I had a laptop, there are certain functions that I might want to do, but say for instance, high-end gaming, wouldn't want to game on a laptop as much as on a desktop machine. Video processing I talked about. Some of the things that require really big monitors and that are difficult to do, like graphic design, are a little more difficult to do on the laptop. You can probably do it, but you might not do it as efficiently and quickly as you would on a desktop. So match up what your needs are with what the technology is.
Mm-hmm. The next section that we have here is smart TVs. What really is a smart TV?
Well, smart TV, when we're talking about the TV, we're talking about the TV unit, or I am anyway. Is that what your question is?
Yes.
Okay, so some TVs come with technology built into them, and it can have some internet apps to them. It has some wireless capabilities, and there are things that you can do with the TV that needs the internet. Those are smart TVs. The tough part about those is that they don't update really quickly, whereas if you have things like Roku or an Apple TV that plugs into your television, those things can update. They're built to update regularly, and they have a lot more flexibility to them. I think that's a market that's going to be growing in the short term.
Mm-hmm. So the difference between having a TV with the built-in technology as opposed to having your regular TV and then buying the appliance like an Apple TV or Chromecast, which would you suggest?
Well, I would suggest going with the smaller units myself. It's quicker to update, and if something new comes along, you're not going to have to replace the entire monitor to update all of what's out there. A lot of people like to have things like Netflix on their smart TVs or their small streaming appliances. If Netflix comes out with this new software, you don't want to have to update your whole television. Whereas a $50 device, you might not think twice about that.
Right. And then our next section here is phones. How would you compare the phones that we have today to something you might have seen 15 years ago?
The ones we used to have 15 years ago, they came with a bag and an antenna about this long, and they sometimes even worked better, believe it or not, because they were old analog phones. But it's amazing what you can do with these new cell phones. The phones themselves, some of them are getting larger, some of them are getting smaller. We're going to see in the short-term future a lot of Chinese manufacturers like Huawei, and there was another one that began with an H. The Chinese manufacturers are going to come in the next year or two, and I think blow the market away. We're still talking about Google Android and Apple iPhones, but I think the Chinese manufacturers are going to really take a big chunk of the market coming up, because they're going to build the phones cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, today we have a lot of smartphones out today. What really is a smartphone?
Well, when you're thinking about smartphones, you're generally thinking about phones that are really little computers. They'll do things like, and cameras and GPSs. They've got a variety of different applications that are going into them. What I like about my smartphone is that I'm carrying a GPS, I'm carrying a camera, I'm carrying a laptop, I'm carrying all these devices in something that's this small. And they add different apps to them. You can do your texting, your calling. They're really versatile devices, and it's amazing what you can do with these things.
Now, would you say that there's any differences between a smartphone and an iPhone?
Well, an iPhone really is a smartphone. The two big players right now are your Android phones and your iPhones, which are made by Apple. Google's behind the Android phones, and between the two of them, they take the majority of the smartphone market.
Mm-hmm. And now, smartphones today use things like 3G and 4G. If you could explain that, and also what the difference is between the two?
Sure. These phones use Wi-Fi, but they also can use cellular networks to do their internet networking. And 3G was a third generation of networking technology, and it had a certain bandwidth. I think it was like 300 megabits per second, and that was how much data you could get through the phone at any given time. 4G was much bigger, much faster. I think it is 100 megabits you can get with 4G networking. So a person that was browsing the internet on their smartphone on 3G noticed a huge difference when you went to 4G. 4G is now allowing people to do streaming and to get their laptop online through tethering, and it's much more versatile. But what's coming down the road and what's going to be interesting is when 5G comes into play. 5G is going to be coming probably close to 2020. You'll need all new phones to do it, but those are going to get up to like 1 gigabit per second. And that means you wouldn't think twice about streaming a movie or doing some hardcore browsing on these devices. It would be much, much bigger, faster, and all that stuff.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts on technology that you'd like to leave with us today?
Well, I think technology in schools especially is becoming a pretty important role across the board, and it's preparing students to go out into the real world where technology is going to be in a lot of different aspects of their life. And I think it's a good thing that we're introducing students to different technologies and getting you fluent in all those things. I think technology itself is getting faster. At the same time, it's getting smaller, and it's becoming less expensive all the time. So the only constant is going to be change. So I guess that pretty much sums up my idea.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming today. This is Vincent Vanier, the tech coordinator, and I'm Jillian Vanier reporting from WOWL, signing off.